So, money stuff, most of the money that we see, this is following through with the governor's trend. We want to, live within our means and pay down debt. So about half of the money that's been proposed to be in K-12 education deals with deferrals, meaning we're going to give you cash now rather than wait for later, which does help each of your districts in a cash flow basis. And it's a pretty, I think a wise thing to do, considering that many of us are in positions where we've been borrowing or, incurring interest charges. And so that's part of the proposal, and with a long-term plan to fully retire the deferral obligation. The next largest piece is for local control. Okay, so I'll spend a bit time talking in more detail, but this is where the governor has said, I want to take what would be extra money, meaning a cost of living adjustment, plus some additional funds, and put it into local control. So essentially buy our way into a new formula. And not just buy our way all at once because we can't afford it, but buy our way over time. So this is, to me, signs that we've gone from a proposal that is ideological, meaning I want to see local control, so let's do weighted student formula, to one that's actually starting to be pragmatic, recognizing that we as a state don't have enough money to keep everyone where they are and grow them up to some new weights without a lot more money. And that's going to actually take time. So this proposal is an 8-year phase-in. It also recognizes there's some sensitive resources for some of our large urban school districts. And it attends to allowing for that to continue. So the big program here we're talking about is Targeted Instructional Improvement Grant Funds that would be rolled into the base amounts for those districts receiving it. And so we're finally, I think, getting to the point where this proposal is starting to attend to those things that make these kinds of proposals viable. In terms of nobody loses. So there's a chance for everyone to gain over time. It's also a proposal that says we're also going to protect those things that people worry about losing. And we're going to create some structures that allow for people to understand and see how it's going to happen and not make it not make this dramatic shift in 1 year. Okay? So, and then there's a few other cats and dogs things that are in the proposal. But let me talk about the details. And so 2 days ago or earlier in this week, the Department of Finance released actual district numbers, right? So prior to this week, you couldn't have seen the district numbers. So now you can go on, you can see your district numbers, and maybe you're going, now you might have turned from neutral to a fan of this, right? Because you're going, wow, we could get all that money. Wouldn't that be great? Or maybe you've turned from being like, a fan to going, well, this might not be as great because we were getting so much EIA money, okay? So, but the basic mechanics are that we create a base amount, and you can see on this slide it's an average 6,700. Since then, we now know what the actual target or base amounts are by grade level. And so I've handed out to you, each of you, a 4-page briefing paper that I put together. And this explains the trailer bill. So the reason that we know all this is the trailer bill came out, I think, about 3 weeks ago. In it, it actually describes how this would be implemented. So this is key. It's 165 pages, and you can read it if you'd like. But it's all about how we take current ed code and we cut out a lot of sections. So a lot of the 165 pages are things that we're just not going to need in ed code if we were to go to this formula. And so there are some things that get added in. And one of them is, how do we provide this funding? So you can see that in the way that it's outlined, we have targeted amounts for grade levels, and those targeted amounts are meant to recognize a few things. One is at the upper grade or high school levels, there needs to be some additional funds for career technical education. At the K-3 level, some extra funds so that we can support K-3 class size reduction. But there's also acknowledgement that K-3 class size reduction isn't the 20-to-1 program that it was when it was first initiated in 1996, but that it's your new reality as well. Many of you have gone up to 30, 31, 32 in those grade levels. So class size reduction could look like 24-to-1 or something close to that. So what it says in the bill is, upon full implementation, meaning all the monies, everyone's been leveled up to targets, we're all humming along in 8 years, that's when it would enforce that a 24-to-1 would be the target amount for the K-3 class size levels. Okay, so if you're at a district right now that's at 30, you'll have some time to bring yourself back down. The other part of this, though, is, and this is where the weights come in, for an unduplicated count of your low-income, English learners, and foster youth, you will be given the base plus 35%. Okay? So they actually count for 135% of the base, essentially. If you're in a district where you have a whole lot of students that fall into that category, then you'll be eligible for a concentration amount. So it's if you are over 50%, that increment over 50% qualifies you for 170% of the base amount. So the key here is it's an unduplicated count. So before you go and think, oh, how am I going to figure this out? It's actually pretty easy. Because which student that do you have that's a foster youth is not also low income? Okay, most of them are. Which student do you have that's an English learner is not also low income? And the fact is there's like an 80% overlap. Okay? So what that means is this formula is largely driven off your low income counts. And that's very different than what we currently have in our economic impact aid funding formulas. Because actually in EIA, we are generating that based on EL counts. We are generating that based on poverty counts. That's how you have gotten your base amount. And then you take your numbers and use some allocation method within your district. Okay? And you're allowed to duplicate, but there is actually some separate strands to the calculation. So this is a huge change from where we've been thinking, okay, because of the unduplicated nature of this count. You know, to me, because of the way the proposal structure, and hopefully you saw this in your numbers, I mean, this is meant to take everyone with what they have today and hold you harmless. So you should only get more through this, okay, over time. But so, you know, this is, though, an important part. So there's a concern, you know, on the part of some. How do we know anything's going to happen for these kids? And this is where the accountability piece comes in, which is you're expected to show through a local plan that you've adequately and appropriately addressed the needs of these subpopulations in your plans and showed how the money you have is going towards those students' needs. So this is that local plan. It would need to be your budgets in your districts could only be approved once your local plan's approved. So this is what I call taking AB 1200 and putting it on steroids. Okay, so AB 1200 is that fiscal accountability that your districts right now have to turn into your county offices, your district budget, and then your county office reviews the district budget and they decide, are you positively certified? Are you negatively certified? Or are you qualified? Okay. What it says in the bill language is the county office cannot positively certify you as a district with your budget, even if it's complete, meets all the requirements, has sufficient reserves, until they have reviewed and approved your plan. So this is where, this is, you know, and if you look at the way the plan's described, it's not that much different sounding than what we currently do with our LEA plans. Or at least it doesn't seem like it's that much different, right? We're supposed to write, we're supposed to do a needs analysis. We're supposed to identify the things that we're going to do for students, especially in these subpopulations. We need to then show a budget that aligns support to address those needs and then show how it's included in our district budget. So it's not that different, but when you think about it, if you really were to do this, this is kind of hard, right? Because when do we get our budget done so that we get it to our county office? We don't do this, we do this rather early in the year, right? You're going to get that initial budget. It has to be approved and in place by July 1. So you're actually in your districts right now developing next year's budget. And so we are not accustomed in our process of district planning to take data and start looking now for next year. We're still figuring out this year. And so one of the issues or challenges is going to be, how do you truly make a meaningful plan that actually comes before a budget that needs to be in place by June 30th? And then it says in the legislation, you're also then going to have to update your plan, and it would be somehow, what you're going to have that interim, you have interim budget reports. So is it expected that each time you have an interim report, there's going to be another plan review? Okay, so the mechanics of that haven't been sorted out.